우리 청춘은 왜 이렇게 누구래 이렇게 맹글었나? 그 사람이 이렇게 맹글었지.
It all started when Japan invaded Manchuria in 1932. 5 years later, Japan committed the Nanjing Massacre, in which armies not only slaughtered thousands of civilians but also raped countless women. Due to such uncontrolled behavior, many Japanese soldiers contracted venereal diseases, including syphilis and gonorrhea, which urged the military to establish an organized system that could satisfy the soldiers' sexual needs. As the Second Sino-Japanese War dragged on, the Japanese military expanded the comfort station system, recruiting not only Japanese women, but also kidnapping women from other countries, such as the Philippines, the Netherlands, Taiwan, Indonesia, China, and Korea. As Korea was a colony of Japan at the time, most of these sex slaves were Korean teenagers who were forcibly taken from their villages. Once these girls were taken into their respective comfort stations, they suffered years of oppression. On average, each girl was forced to serve up to 8 or 9 men a day. Not only were the women not paid, but they also suffered physically. After the release of the comfort women at the end of World War II in 1945, many who found their way back home suffered from shame, trauma, and the sadness of not being able to marry and have children. It was not until August 1991, 46 years after liberation, that the first comfort woman, Kim Hak-soon, gave first-hand accounts of her service in the Japanese stations.
Soon after, other Korean victims began to come forth one by one. The public began to refer to these women as 할머니, a respectful term of endearment that means grandmother in Korean. The first confessions by Korean comfort women empowered victims from other countries to begin a movement to gain global recognition, which has brought much attention to the war atrocities the Japanese committed against women during World War II. Currently, the United Nations estimates that roughly 200,000 people were enslaved, and the number of registered comfort women continues to rise as more individuals follow in Kim Hak-soon's footsteps. A former Dutch comfort woman who served the Japanese, Jan Ruff O'Hearn, said, "I saw on television the Korean comfort women. The South Korean comfort women were the first ones to speak out, and they wanted justice and compensation and an apology more than anything else. And I thought I must back up these women. Now it's time to speak out." In addition, former Indonesian and Filipina comfort women were inspired to reveal their past. Lola Maria Rosa Henson was the first Filipina to testify on television and radio in 1992, and thus gave comfort women in the Philippines a face and a voice. Governments in Taiwan and the Netherlands formed the LILA Filipina and the Taiwanese Comfort Women Investigation Committee dedicated to the welfare of comfort women. These branches called for the compensation and apologies from the Japanese government and filed numerous lawsuits at the Tokyo District Court. Other countries, such as China, protested the comfort women's unfair treatment and set up museums to educate the public about the issue. This evidence spread and the comfort woman movement allowed them to earn the global stage they needed to promote their cause at an international scale. Initially, Korean comfort women who revealed their stories were stigmatized. Confucian values placed a taboo on sexual activity, and Korean society stresses virginity for women. Due to these conservative beliefs, the 할머니es who came back were seen as tainted and disgraceful. In addition, South Korean President Lee Myung-bak refused to discuss the issue with the Japanese government when he took office in 2008. However, the Halmoni's persistence began to bring change. As more comfort women shared their testimonies, their stories started to gain global recognition and eventually reached the United Nations. In 1992, the Korean Council for Women, drafted for military sexual slavery by Japan, appealed to the UN to investigate the issue. 3 years later, the UN Human Rights Commission issued a report that recommended the Japanese to accept legal responsibility, pay reparations, apologize officially, and punish the criminals. Also, in 1996, the UN Human Rights Commission released Special Commissioner Kuromaswamy's Report on Violence Against Women, which officially recognizes the crimes committed by the Japanese government. In 2008, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the 1-to-1 resolution, which demanded the Japanese to follow the recommendations the UN laid out in its report 13 years ago. The Netherlands, Canada, Australia, and the European Union followed suit, issuing similar resolutions asking the Japanese to finally apologize. Despite international pleas for Japan to accept responsibility, the Japanese government has never offered an official apology to Korea. For over 60 years, the government has denied the existence of the comfort system itself, and even claimed that the comfort women had volunteered to serve the Japanese soldiers.
立証された関係による強制連行とは一つ。
Many students in Japanese schools also remain largely uneducated about the issue, as there have been 35 intended omissions of comfort women in Japanese history books. However, there are Japanese who are ashamed of the atrocities the Japanese military committed during World War II. Many of the public demonstrations held in Japan have involved numerous Japanese civilian participants who acknowledge and sympathize with the comfort women. Also, several Japanese soldiers have also admitted their abuse of the women.
決して自分はいいことをしたとは思ってませんからね。相手をどれだけ苦しめたかっていうことがもう第一番に頭にきますからね。
The Korean government donates 740,000 won to the women every month. In addition, in 1992, Buddhist monks founded the House of Sharing to provide a home for the survivors. And in 1995, the Japanese Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama established the Asian Women's Fund. However, the Korean Halmonies rejected the money from Japan because it came from private donations and not from the government. Determined to live to the day the Japanese formally apologize, the Korean Halmonies have been staging protests every Wednesday in front of the Japanese embassy since 1992. December 14, 2011 marked the 1000th Wednesday protest, and the Peace Monument, a statue of a young girl in a hanbok sitting on a bench facing the Japanese embassy, was erected to symbolize the Comfort Women's crusade. After the 1000th protest, President Lee was prompted to take action. During a summit on December 18, 2011, he urged the Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda to act on the issue, and flatly rejected Noda's request to remove the Peace Monument. International recognition of the comfort women's hardships and Japanese reluctance to apologize are all part of this ongoing issue. The matter remains a controversial one. In fact, on January 8, 2012, a 38-year-old Chinese man surnamed Liu hurled 4 Molotov cocktails at the Japanese embassy to show his hostility towards the Japanese who had abused his grandmother, a former comfort woman. Such an extreme reaction reflects the building momentum of the comfort woman's fight, the first stage of an unprecedented revolution, which all began with Kim Hak-soon's confessions about her experiences at the comfort stations. It was her bravery that encouraged victims from other parts of the world to also come forth, attracting global attention to an issue which would have otherwise been buried in history.
여기까지 오지도 못했어. 그래, 이거는 꼭 밝혀야 된다. 다 모르고 있으니까. 이건 나는 당사자, 나는 안단 말이야. 내가 이 증언을 해서 이 실토를 안 하면은 이게 평생이 묵히고 만다.